Hey everyone, well today we are going to look at a topic on how can Jesus be fully God and fully human? When I was teaching in Nigeria back in September, this question came up, and it makes sense because in Nigeria there's a lot of Muslims. It's often said to be a logical impossibility for Jesus to be fully God and fully man. One of the things I'd ask here, if they're saying it's a logical impossibility, I would ask, how so? If this is a logical impossibility, then the reason would be because there must be something fundamental about God and something fundamental about humans which simply cannot both be happening together at the same time. So for instance, if we believe that God cannot, by definition, take on human form, then we have an issue, right? A logical impossibility. If we believe that a human cannot, by definition, have infinite power as God does, well, then we also have a kind of logical impossibility. But I would question how we categorize these kinds of essential qualities of God and human. It seems that from a Christian perspective, if we start with the biblical approach and use the Bible to build up our understanding of what it means to be God and what it means to be man, well then, however we build this thing up, we have certain qualities of God and man which work together and do not contradict themselves. So that's kind of the starting point, and I don't see why we would need to come to the table with these predetermined definitions of God and man, which necessarily must contradict each other. I don't think we have to do that. I think we can just start with Scripture and say, well, according to the Bible, this is what it means to be God, this is what it means to be man, and these things work together in the person of Jesus. Another way we could talk about this is to look at how it describes the way that Jesus became man. It says in Philippians that Jesus emptied himself of certain divine qualities by taking on human form. There's a theological term for this, it's called kenosis, and there's different ideas of what exactly that means. But however we understand this, I wouldn't say that Jesus sort of jettisoned or just got rid of divine qualities. It sounds more like he sort of switched them off, set them aside, chose not to access these things in order to live as a human on earth, right? And so the idea that Jesus set aside his ability to know everything, or the idea that Jesus could get tired or get hungry, I mean, these are a result of Jesus taking on human form. Does that mean that he's no longer God? No, I don't think so. Evidently, it's possible to be God and to have these kinds of limitations that Jesus experienced in his humanity as well. But in here, if we look at the Philippians approach, he set these things aside. Maybe think of it, I mean, to give it, it's hard to give a perfect example, but think of it, here's one example. Like in gaming, when you buy a product and then you also buy DLCs or sort of expansion packs to go with this game, on Steam, you can switch those on and off, but you are the owner of those. You have those things. You can just choose whether or not to access these extra features of the game. Sorry, you have a nerd for a teacher right now, but that's maybe one way to think about it, that Jesus set these things aside. He always has them. It's true to his nature. He's just not accessing them at the time in order to express his humanity fully while on earth. Some of those things that he set aside, I'm sure, are back in full force now that Jesus is ascended and seated at the right hand with the Father and all this stuff, glorified and everything else. But he is still fully human. Ultimately, when we talk about Jesus being fully God and fully man, what we mean theologically would be that he has a divine mind and a divine will, and a human mind and a human will. How the divine and the human mind and will come together and work in harmony, I don't really know. But we don't have to know how it works. We just have to know that it works. There is no perfect answer for how God could be fully man and fully human at the same time. But I think we can know enough to understand that it's certainly possible, even when it's hard to conceptualize in our minds. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.